The union bosses of the WGA have declared victory against Hollywood studios. Meanwhile, a lot of the rank-and-file writers, the union members themselves, are probably going to be out of work and perhaps even looking for new careers. And many of them had better hope that their resume writing skills are better than their screenplay writing skills. Dear Starbucks. But don't worry, not everything is terrible. Late-night television, one of America's favorite cultural rectums, will be back on the air next week.
Yay!
That way, everybody can go back to not watching it again. Renegade Online. Well, folks, welcome back. Another great day here at Valiant Renegade. It's good to see everybody out there once again. And if you are like one of the many folks watching this video, not yet subscribed to this channel, please take a moment and turn that little red subscribe button to gray. Hit that like button, hit that notification bell, share this sucker out on the social medias, and of course, please do leave a comment before you head out the door today. So pretty much as we predicted, or frankly, as any economics textbook could have predicted the outcome of this, if there was going to be an artificial increase in labor costs, then there was going to be a necessary offset by way of production cuts. And here we go from Deadline magazine today. TV business faces further contraction as the marketplace reopens. Quote, "The bubble has burst." After 148 days of a WGA strike that ground production to a halt and put tens of thousands out of work, everyone in Hollywood has a reason to celebrate this week after the Guild and the studios reached a tentative agreement Sunday night and the strike came to an end this morning. Does everybody remember a few years ago when the minimum wage push for $15 an hour began? And of course, the biggest employers of minimum wage labor responded with stuff like this: iPads and fully automated ordering systems to get rid of excessive costs. Well, all this business with the WGA strike in Hollywood, it's the same thing. Strikers who spent months on picket lines to protect the future of writing, as they put it, as a profession, have been sharing their joy on social media, telling each other excitedly, "Let's get back to work." It's about that. For those working in television, however, it's not clear what kind of business and marketplace they will be going back to. Surprise, surprise. It likely won't be what they left 5 months ago. Accelerated contraction, more competition, reeled-in budgets, fewer overall deals, and possibly more cancellations are some of the things the industry sources are preparing for. And one thing they're not anticipating, a flood of new spec scripts. One representative recalled writers' attitudes in 2007 and 2008 as, quote, "While I'm waiting for the strike to be over, the last strike that happened, I need to be prepared," resulting in a slew of spec scripts written during the work stoppage that hit the networks immediately after. Not this time. Everyone had good intentions to take time and write, but not a lot of people did, another rep said. People were busy. They took picket lines seriously and were there every day. It wasn't just the daily physical presence at the pickets. They were invested in the strike and their emotional focus was there. Yeah, I'm not buying this emotional argument. I think it has more to do with the fact that there is a much bigger glut of writers out there now, and quite frankly, let's look at the attitude change generationally that's been the case since 2007 till today. Back in 2007, you probably had a lot more writers that were more business-oriented, whereas today, well, just look at some of the pictures from the picket lines and what some of those people look like, and, well, there you go. And then, of course, you have the state of California, which is famous for terrible legislation, which voted to actually use taxpayer money to pay unemployment benefits to people who literally voted not to work. I've talked to many writers, and I think most of them did not write a strike spec, he said in the post, but we still feel like there's going to be a ton of material flooding the market and a buying frenzy in the immediate aftermath of a strike. I'm betting the other way. Indeed, there's a ton of projects ready to go out when networks and streamers reopen for business, though buyers, people like Netflix, do not expect the type of frenzy that we have seen over the last decade. No one is buying. This is the worst marketplace that I have ever experienced, a veteran studio exec lamented to Deadline back in April. The big question is, how receptive will the marketplace be post-strike? Quote, across the board, what I have heard from buyers is that they will be buying less and making less, one seller said. And there you have it, folks. Economics 101, as I mentioned earlier. When you artificially increase the price of labor beyond what the market can bear, then the market is going to respond by producing less product. Or the market is going to have to charge higher rates for that product in order to make up the artificial cost increase. And what's the one thing that Hollywood really can't do right now? Charge advertisers more. Why? Because they've already been in an advertising slump for the last 12 months. Back in April, there were already indications that the reasons for the dramatic industry slowdown were deeper and went far beyond strike preparation. A potential strike forces everyone to go on pause at the same time, but they all needed to reframe and pivot as they have so much that is not working, one insider told Deadline at the time. Said a major buyer last week, the strike just sped up the inevitable pullback. I suspect everybody will be doing less. And if you go back into the Valiant Renegade archives here on this channel in videos that we've produced about this topic or from our live streams, which are over on Valiant Renegade Online, a second channel that we have on YouTube, you will find I have been saying this for months. And that is that the WGA could not have picked a worse time to throw a strike on Hollywood, who was sitting around already begging for an excuse to cut back enormously on content production. And the WGA just handed it to them on a silver freaking platter. During the strike, there were a handful of renewals for shows and a slew of cancellations as networks and streamers re-evaluated their slates. That is now continuing. Some shows are outright canceled. Others were already renewed, but those renewals have now been rescinded by the networks or the streamers that had previously agreed to pick up additional seasons. Time has lapsed and contracts have to be met. Well, with the strike, it delayed a lot of things, and that gave studios the option and the time they needed to really go over what they were spending money on, and they have used contractual provisions to take that time and cut back on things that they had already said that they were going to go forward with. On broadcast networks, if second or third seasons were ordered before the strike, it doesn't mean they will stay ordered after the strike. Normally, buying is almost complete by this time of year, but according to sources, networks are expected to be aggressive, buying new pitches along with some development rolled over from before the strike. Of course, even without the strike, broadcast pilot season over the past few years has diminished to a fraction of the volume that we had a decade ago, as networks' parent companies have pulled back financially among declining linear ratings. And that's the cord cutting, folks, as things go from traditional linear or over-the-air broadcast to more streaming viewership. And here's where even more pain comes in. Apart from slashing the number of shows that these broadcast stations and even streamers plan to produce, at least with scripted content, they're also going to be seriously cutting back budgets. And apart from slashing content, studios are also expected to slash the budgets on any content moving forward. Show budgets, by and large, are also expected to be smaller, with industry insiders estimating that broadcast dramas would cost, on average, $4.5 to $5 million per episode, and about half of that for comedy. Even streamers, which have been shelling out $20 million plus per episode for a series like Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, Stranger Things, House of the Dragon, and some Marvel Star Wars shows, would be looking to keep budgets at about $5 to $10 million an episode, the insider said. And you've heard us talk recently about shows, especially on Disney+, things like Andor, things like The Acolyte coming up next year, the Marvel shows like Secret Invasion. All of these things came in with $200+ million total production budgets, or even some cases, I think, going to get closer to $250 down the road, for 8-episode seasons. That is absolutely untenable, especially considering the mediocre viewership at best that they've been getting. And according to this insider at Deadline magazine, Even those Marvel and Star Wars shows are going to be on the budget chopping block. The streaming gold rush that led to an overall deal boom a couple of years ago is officially over. While there were no term deal terminations during the WGA strike, a number of packs expired during the work stoppage and will not be renewed, I hear. Studios have the option to suspend and extend, adding the length of the strike-related suspension at the end of overall first-look deals terms. But for a number of writers and producers, that won't happen, with only high-profile talent tied to big shows getting extensions, observers expect. Meaning that if you had potentially been picked up by a major studio or streamer to go ahead and put your writing project onto Netflix or maybe onto Paramount Plus, unless you were a Taylor Sheridan, your stuff is probably going to get jettisoned out the airlock. But writers have to compete for fewer staffing jobs available amid show cancellations, fewer script buys, fewer term deals. The question is how long the pullback will last. While some think the pendulum would swing and TV volume would bounce back, a number of top industry people believe the strike-influenced 2023 dip would not be an anomaly like the COVID-related drop in 2020. Some of the losses are permanent. Over the past year, a broadcast network, the CW, went from 12 homegrown scripted series employing WGA writers to 3. All of them, in addition, are producing shorter seasons. And that is how the bubble burst. When it comes to strikes, the unions always win. And I don't mean the members. The union bosses always win. And the members, perhaps many of them, have already signed their own career death warrants. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think this is a good thing or a bad thing for Hollywood? Maybe somewhat of a reset that we're going to get more quality over quantity. Hit that like and subscribe button. And until next time, take care.